Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chazzy. You guys already know how this works, right? It's the segment on this channel where I can review movies and stuff, and TV shows is Tele-Chazzy, sorry. But on Cinema Chazzy, I review specifically movies that I watch, regardless of how old they are, I used to use this to review movies that I just watched, and new ones that are coming out to try to get on the hype train to get views and stuff. But now I just review whatever the hell I want, whatever I watch that I think is cool, or something that really has a very positive effect on me. And today, I'm gonna review a movie that has exactly that, and it is 2010's The Karate Kid, the remake with Jackie Chan and what's his face, Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son. One of the most questionable casting decisions in movie history, making this kid be the main role in the... But anyway, okay, look, here's the thing. Before I get into it, I'm going to talk a little bit about what this movie represents to me as well, and why I like it so much. Now, obviously, it doesn't hold a candle to the original in 1984, The Karate Kid with Ralph Macchio, but now it's a direct remake. It's a, not exact, I don't think it's a reboot because I don't think they're going to be making more. But it is, I'm guessing it's gonna just be a standalone reboot of the first one, it's a remake. So the thing is that the first one is something special, the original, in 84, but the one in 2010, I think that it is very underrated actually, because I actually, to be really honest with you guys, I don't even know which one I prefer at sometimes, because the first one is amazing, it's awesome, but then again, the modern one, it's a whole different story. It's the same story, but told in a modern aesthetic. So somebody who's younger can relate to it more, My parents, for example, my dad, who also loves watching movies, he can relate more to the one in 84, the same way that I can relate more to the one in 2010, So, and I think it was a very good remake. I consider the movie to be pretty much flawless, but there were a few things that were a little strange. But anyway, let me talk a little bit about it, alright? So now I think that it was perfect to cast Jackie Chan in the role of the Mr. Miyagi character. No, he was actually playing a guy named Mr. Han, the maintenance man, who of course is the one who fills in for Pat Morita, and he is the mentor who instructs the young bully kid to, embrace a different way of not only defending himself but also treating people, and the same way that the original has the charm of Mr. Miyagi teaching Daniel how to do the whole wax on, wax off thing. It's the same thing with Mr. Han and Dre, who's played by Jaden Smith, and he uses the dynamic of the jacket, putting the jacket on the ground and picking it up and hanging it up and all of these different things. And with just these small movements, he creates a whole series of kung fu, techniques. Now, the focus now is kung fu because they're in China. It's funny because the original Karate Kid had just a kid coming to a different city, in the United States, but in the remake, they go one step further and make them actually go to Asia. So now they actually go to China. So imagine how hard it is to adapt, And then it's cool because you get to see a little bit more of Chinese culture in a different way, And the way that they structure this is having a kid who doesn't even speak Chinese, and he kind of tries to make friends, but he gets into a fight, the same way as the original one does. And now they use kung fu, which I think was a very good decision because it was born in China, it's the birthplace of kung fu. So as the movie goes on, you get to see more and more philosophies behind this ancient fighting technique being more and more fleshed out,
Welcome to Beijing. Gonna do something?
Now, because this is a remake of the original Karate Kid, there are obviously a lot of parallels, but I do also acclaim it for trying to go in its own direction certain times, because we do have another love interest for the main character, and they're much younger, so it's something a little bit more innocent, depends on how you look at it. We have a jealous friend, who's also into the girl, that kind of thing. Their families are close, and because we're in China, we get to be exposed to the different family values that these people have, We get to see exactly how it works, like the concept of honor and making a promise and keeping your word, and eventually you get to see the work ethic in China, how people are dedicated to their jobs and their studies, so it's like Dre starts to get picked on by a few Chinese kids, because well, it's following the formula of the original movie. So the way that it plays out is very interesting because they're much younger kids, and you find out that they have a very bad sensei who's teaching them how to pretty much fight the same way that Cobra Kai used to back in the 80s, you know. So, and it was actually very nice because these kids are younger, so they obviously have much more impressionable minds. But because they're Chinese, of course, they're crazy good at martial arts, you know. So it's kind of a stereotype there in and of itself. And I think that as the movie goes on, we get to see more of the character dynamics being more fleshed out, you know? It seems like Mr. Miyagi and Daniel in the original got a lot closer than Dre and Mr. Han did, but I think it's because, I mean, there wasn't too much to establish there, you know? I mean, we already knew what was gonna happen at certain points because we saw the original movie, but I still think that their relationship really went well. Jackie Chan played the role very nicely, but then again, I'm used to seeing Jackie Chan as like this happy-go-lucky guy who even if he's playing a detective or a cop or something, you know, he's always in a good mood, he's smiling, you know, he cracks a smile every now and again. So I think this is actually the first movie I ever saw him in where he was serious. Then again, I think every single Jackie Chan movie I had seen before then had always been a comedy, has always been comedies. So I think it's the first serious movie that I saw him in. So it was very strange, you know, because there were a few instances where he was actually very serious. His character even cried, you know, because we find out that he killed his wife and child in a car accident, you know. So it was really great to see Jackie Chan showing off his acting chops in this way. Like, he's not only typecast as the martial arts guy who does his own stunts and is playing a cop or something, you know. He actually can act very seriously. And I think he fit the role very well, you know. I think the role fit him like a glove. Like, he was literally the perfect actor to play the Mr. Miyagi-like figure, you know, who was going to be the mentor to his young protege. And as the movie goes on, as the scenes start to get more and more serious, we see that Dre really is learning. There is the whole dynamic of, you know what, you're wasting my time, I'm leaving here thing, you know. But that's when everything connects. That's when everything falls into place, you know, the same way that it happened in the original Karate Kid movie. So in my opinion, it was very well done. It was a perfect remake, and the way that they would structure certain scenes, you know, how they would film and edit them, you know, and the lighting would be just good so you can actually see that there was an evolution, you know. And as Dre starts to train, Dre is a very complicated character, you know. Probably the one thing I didn't like about this movie was casting Jaden Smith, you know, because let's be honest, Hollywood cannot take this kid seriously. We've been trying to take his father seriously for the last few years now. I know Will Smith used to be on the top of the world, you know. He used to be the greatest actor on the planet, and now he just sucks. So I mean, I guess his son didn't really follow in his footsteps too much, which is a shame, of course. I think I kicked the camera tripod, it kind of shook. But yeah, so I mean, it's not really, I guess it's pressure when your dad is one of the greatest actors of all time. I mean, it must be really hard to fill in his shoes. Maybe there was a lot of pressure on him, you know, but still, it doesn't excuse him just being weird.
I just want to go home. This is home.
You're just a maintenance man.
But anyway, the point is, I think that Jaden was very badly cast, although there were a few moments where it was actually kind of cute, the chemistry between him and the young actress, and there are times when he actually does bring a lot of comic relief, you know. And towards the end, when we see him actually in the tournament, you know, fighting to, you know, regain his honor, his pride, and you know, win against the bully that was actually causing him a hard time the entire movie. It was actually very satisfactory, you know, it was nice, but I still don't think that Jaden was the best option for this, you know. And then there was the soundtrack by Justin Bieber, you know. At the time I didn't like it a lot, but to be honest today, I mean, the song Never Say Never does actually fit into it quite a lot. And Jaden and Justin are actually buddies in real life. I don't know how they are today, but so it does make sense. Now, the thing is that when you really pick apart the movie element by element, you see that everything does play out very well. You know, the casting was very nice, the soundtrack, you know, the moments of levity, there was a little bit of comic relief, you know, the innocence of the romance between all of the young people, you know, the characters. So there were a lot of very tense moments, so it was very well balanced in my opinion, you know. And martial arts is about balance, like I talked about in my last video about my past as one, you know, and it's all about balance. And I think the movie was perfectly balanced. There is a moment when they start training a little harder, where they actually go outside, they go to different places. Mr. Han takes straight to the top of a temple to drink from the sacred water, you know. So I mean, it's very nice to see more of China as well, and the way that they train differently, the same way Mr. Miyagi trained Daniel back in the 80s. So, and it was nice because now we're not in the US, we're in China, seeing the birthplace of Kung Fu, you know. We see seasoned veterans doing their thing, you know, and then when the tournament finally comes around, there's so much hype, you know. I mean, it's a Karate Kid remake, so we know what's gonna go down, we know who's gonna win, we know how it's gonna end, you know. But even so, there was a lot of hype, you know, because everything is more modern now. So the fighting styles are much more fluid, you know, they're faster, you know, so everything is fast paced and pulse pounding. So it's really, really cool. It's kind of like Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid series on Netflix right now. And the Karate Kid, because it had a bigger budget, I imagine it obviously looked a lot better and much more realistic than the ones in the 80s. Now, if they decide to make a remake of the second one where Dre and Mr. Han go to, well, they already are in China, aren't they? I don't know, go to Korea or something. I don't know. If they try to make a second one, I think it's just gonna bog down the legacy of the first one. It's very rare for a remake in Hollywood to be successful, at least in my opinion, you know, and this one really was. You know, this one really was successful. So if you try to make a sequel to the remake, I don't think it's not gonna feel the same way. Even if you make them go to China, or sorry, go to Japan or Korea or something to learn a different kind of martial art, it's not gonna be cool. But anyway, the point is that this movie, despite the few flaws that it has, you know, and despite some of the plot elements feeling a little rushed, I still think it was flawless, but it's mostly because I am a huge fan of the original Karate Kid movie, so stop calling me, I'm not going to pick up the phone right now. And because of that, I think that it deserves a very well-deserved, anyway, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. You know, I think this movie was flawless, and to me it represents, you know, it represents a good chunk of my childhood because it connects with me in the sense of it being a remake of one of my favorite movies of all time, and also because I was a martial artist a long time ago, so I think that it resonates with me on many different levels. In my opinion, it was really well done, you know, and the way that everything plays out similarly to the first one, but also kind of sort of branches out, you know. We have the motherly figure having to go to China because of her job, you know, and the son can't adapt, he can't make friends, and then he learns martial arts and he makes friends with his karate instructor, you know. So it's very, very interesting. To me, it's really cool. And seeing pretty much a reimagining of the original Karate Kid movie, you know, with a very modern aesthetic was really, really awesome. And it's one of those rare gems in cinematic history, you know, unless they make a sequel. And if they do, I don't know, there's a chance I might eat my words or something, you know, it might actually be really good. But anyway, something else that I wanted to say, yes, it also gives you a little bit of insight on what it's like to do martial arts in China. It shows you a little bit of how the schools work, you know, in the tournaments, and a lot of different cultural references that you pick up. You know, you see him going to the school, how they only wear uniforms on uniform day, they take field trips to the Forbidden Temple, you know. So it's really nice to see this happening, and how a foreigner can connect so well with a local Chinese girl, you know, and there's actually a budding romance there. So it's very different, and I'm pretty sure it was a challenge for the writers and the producers to come up with something so much different that's also so similar to the source material. So in my opinion, this movie is just awesome.
I will teach you real Kung Fu.
But anyway, guys, I think that's it, really. I think that's it. I mean, my movie reviews have been getting a lot more shorter, you know, because it's like I kind of I don't know, I guess sometimes when I know so much about the movie, I can kind of get it done quickly. Not that I'm rushing, it's just that there comes a time when there's not too much else to say, you know? And one of the executive producers on this movie was actually Will Smith, Jaden's father, you know? And it was very interesting because, I mean, Will Smith is a producer. It's really weird. You know, it's like you usually imagine him as an actor. I don't even know what a producer really truly does in a movie, you know. I'm gonna look that up later. And sometimes you see behind the scenes, you see Will coming on set, right? You know, and then Jaden goes like, "Hey Dad, you gotta check this out, it's really cool," you know. Sometimes I forget that they're father and son, man, you know. It's really weird because they look nothing alike, you know. I mean, and Jaden is so weird, you know. I don't know how they are today. They're just, it must be a very strange connection, but I prefer it back when Jaden was still cute and they did The Pursuit of Happiness, you know. He was really cute back then. After Earth kind of sucked. I'm getting off topic here, but anyway, so the thing is that the Karate Kid, the 2010 remake, to me, is a perfect movie. I love it so much. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen it at this point. If you still haven't, go check it out. Don't worry about watching the original. You can watch this one with no problem. You know, it really doesn't matter if you watch the remake and then later watch the original and be like, oh, okay, so that's what it was based on. Although, of course, I do still recommend you watching the original before watching the remake. That's how it's gonna work every time, guys. Whenever there's a remake of a movie, I'm going to recommend that you watch the original before the remake, but that's just my personal suggestion to you, okay? But that's it, guys. That hasn't been it for today's episode of Cinema Chazzy. And so this is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.
I don't want to be scared anymore.
Life will knock us down, but we can choose to get back up. Remember, always strong.